Good morning, everyone. This is Karen and Blue the Lurcher, who's disappeared somewhere down at our lower field. That's our house up there. And I'm always on the lookout for things to notice and subitize. And the sheep have just left the field, so we can come in here now with Blue off the lead, and that leaves me free to do these videos. So here, can you see the molehills? We've got a lot of problem with these in our garden as well. So I can notice the molehills there. And if I get into a better position, hopefully you can see them well too. So if I do that and we have a look and think, lots of noticing. Remember, when the children are noticing, they don't understand the world the way you do. So when you first ask them, what do you see? They're not necessarily going to hone in on the molehills or how manyness of the molehills, which is exactly what we're going to take them to. But make sure you listen to them. If you still this video, if you take a screenshot and you use this exact image, when you ask them what do they see, make sure you're really listening, because they're likely to ask questions. And if you don't ask them what they see and listen, they won't ask those questions anymore. They won't show curiosity anymore. They'll just try and guess what's in your head. So that's my first bit of advice. But then when we get to the stage of moving past and talking about, this is a field, these are called molehills. They're little piles of soil that the moles leave when they dig in the ground, and they may or may not have seen these before. And it's not relevant that they're molehills, by the way. This just happens to be me looking for things to notice that I can link to number sense. So what do you see here, and how do you see it? So as you're not here to tell me, I'm going to do some pointing as best I can while holding the dog lead and the camera. And I'm going to say, if I look here, this is something that human beings are born being able to do. And lots of you have learned this with me already. But can you see there's almost like eyes and a nose? Or probably for babies, it's eyes and a mouth. Because a mouth is a really important thing for babies. Of course, it's, you know, their mouth is what they feed through, and it's what they explore the world through. And these things, oh, sorry, I hope it's not too noisy, a bit windy. These things are going to keep them alive. This is the image of almost certainly their mother's face, their primary carer's face. So you're designed as an animal to look out for this. And you will have a sense from a baby of this whole image here. This then leads to eventually your understanding of numbers up to 3 or amounts up to 3. So hold on to that idea there. Can you also see here, if you're familiar with, of course, like we are as adults, dice patterns and domino patterns, you might see the pattern of 4 there. And then you might notice that there's a 2 here and a 2 here and a 1 there. But of course, if that's a 1, then that's also a 1. And look what I'm doing. I'm not just pointing at the molehill, I'm going round it, because I'm thinking of it like a set. So we've got a 1 and a 1 and a 1 and a 1. So lots of 1s, some 2s there. I could have looked at my 2 here, of course. Look, 2 there, 2 there, 2 across the top, 2 here. So that idea about the 2 is anywhere you can see it. There isn't, unlike with counting where we might go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're implying that that one there is 2 and that one there is 5. When we teach children to count before they can subitize, they lose their natural ability to look at things as a whole. Sorry, it's getting really windy, so I hope you can still hear me. So I want you to notice with your children these sorts of things. And if you have a question around, well, how do they know the number names to label these? Well, to begin with, they don't, just like they don't know the name for anything. But the fact is, they do know that this amount is not the same as this amount. Because if you were to show them food of this amount and this amount, they'd reach for the greater amount, because that's how they stay alive. Their bodies are designed, their brains are designed to go for the thing that's going to sustain them better. And in time, we show them something they know and we say this is 1. And of course, that's just in English. If you speak another language as your first language, you would use that word, which shows the word is not important. Here's 1, here's 1, here's 1, here's 1. Now, when we get 2 1s together, we call it 2. So I said on a call yesterday, it's a bit like the difference between holding up a banana and holding up an apple and saying banana, apple. They know what it is way before they can say the word. So don't overcomplicate this with your own learning about counting, particularly because counting is something we have to learn. Counting is something humans invented. And I think we all know this, but we perhaps don't think about it nearly enough. Counting systems using number names and symbols was created by human beings after human beings had been alive for tens of thousands of years, or not alive, but around. And you know, we had many different counting systems. So humans don't need digits and number names in order to understand number sense, and that gives us a really good understanding of how children first encounter numbers. And the idea of seeing a whole, there's more there, oh, Blue's come to help, there's Blue, seeing the whole amount and seeing part of the amount. Can you see here that when they learn that this is 3, 3 is part of the whole group? So there's a 3 and there's a 2, so we've got part whole there. We've also got, I always call it part whole because we can do parts in different ways. If you say part whole, it only draws your attention to 2 parts, whereas we've got 1, oh, hang on, camera's focusing my finger, 1, 1, 1. Those 3 ones are part of the whole. If we change what the whole is, maybe look at this 4 here, you don't need to know what that's called. It's got 2 2s in it, but it's also got 4 1s in it. It's also got a 3 and a 1. So can you see here, number 1, I am out on a dog walk and I am noticing, and I am going to ask my children, what do you see? And I'm going to really listen to them. It's not about drawing them straight to the numbers because that's not what they're going to see. Then we are going to make sure that they understand, in this case, what we're looking at. Of course, mounds of soil is enough. You don't need to talk about molehills. So that way the brain can stop paying attention to that and start paying attention to the patterns. Then we're going to look at the fact that the brain has an inkling to look particularly at this pattern, and the idea of looking at 1 is something children really understand because we're always talking about, would you like another 1? Here's 1 more. And we start labeling these amounts. And then, if you can still hear me with the wind, I could change position and say, what do you see this time? And even though we got a lot more here, I could just look at the parts. So I could say, I can see 2 there, I can see 1 there, I can see, I think it's 2 there, I might have to go closer, I can see 3 there, I can see 1 there. It's not about knowing how many they are altogether. What I'm doing here is called perceptual subitising, and it links to part whole, and it eventually links to our ability to calculate. So I'll finish on that, go back here. The link to calculation for those of you teaching children who are ready for this, because we've got, for example, a 4 and a 1 in this whole, and we know the whole, at one point we're going to learn as a child, the whole is 5. So 4 plus 1 equals 5, and 5 subtract that 1 equals 4, and 5 subtract that 4 leaves us with 1. 5 subtract that 3 leaves us with 2, and so forth. And there's so much more. So be looking at the maths you are using with your children, particularly if you're using a scheme, and think, am I maximising these opportunities? Is there an activity in front of me and I think, gosh, that stuff Karen showed on the video would really help my children understand this, because your destination is number sense, and number sense will give your children the most incredible skills for life and way beyond maths as well. So enjoy noticing, everyone. From me and Blue, are we going over to that gate, Bluesy? We look forward to hearing about your wow bombs and what you do with your children. Take care, everyone.